Okay, the live stream has begun.
Good evening and welcome to the May 4th, 2022 special board meeting at the Capistrano Unified School District. The meeting is now in session. The time is 5:36. Per CDPH and Cal OSHA guidelines, the use of masks is strongly recommended but not required. Members of the public may attend this meeting in person or participate by phone. A registration link has been posted on the board meeting agenda page of our website for those who plan to call in to address the board meeting. Should I do the roll call? Superintendent Patel, will you please call the roll?
Yep. Trustee Bollicus? Here. Trustee Castellanos is absent. Trustee Davis? Here. Trustee Hanachek?
Here.
Trustee Jones?
Here.
Trustee McNicholas?
Here. Before the board recesses to closed session, is there anyone who would like to speak to a closed session item? Do we have any speakers?
We have no speakers.
The board will now recess to closed session to address the following agenda item: public employee discipline, dismissal, release, one case. The board will now recess to closed session. The time is 5:37.
President McNicholas, live stream is now in progress. You may turn on your mic and open the meeting.
Good evening and welcome to the May 4th, 2022 special board meeting of the Capistrano Unified School District. The meeting is now in session. The time is 6:02 p.m. Per CDPH and CalOSH guidelines, the use of masks is strongly recommended but not required when indoors at the district office. Members of the public may attend this meeting in person or participate by phone. A registration link has been posted on the meeting agenda page of our website for those who plan to call in to address the board this evening. Please note, if we have any students registered to speak this evening on any agenda item, we will hear them before an adult speaker. As a reminder, once an agenda item has begun, no further blue speaker cards will be accepted. Please note, staff has made revisions to agenda item 9A1, board policy 5141.52, suicide prevention. Trustees have been given the revisions on the dais and copies are available in the back of the room. Staff has suggested revisions to 8C1, second reading of board policy 9323. Trustees have been given the revisions on the dais and copies are in the back of the room. Mrs. Hayes, will you please call the roll?
Student Advisor Padia. Here. Trustee Bullicus. Here. Trustee Castellanos is absent this evening. Trustee Davis.
Here.
Trustee Hanachek.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee McNicholas.
Here. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Bob Crespi.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Moved by trustee Davis, second by trustee Bulkus. Mrs. Hayes, please call the roll.
Student Advisor Padia.
Aye.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye.
Trustee Castellanos is absent. Trustee Davis.
Aye.
Trustee Hanachek.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee McNicholas.
Aye. Motion passes 501 to adopt the agenda with a preferential vote of aye by student advisor Padia. Mrs. Hayes, please read the report out of closed session.
On agenda item 3A, public employee discipline dismissal release, trustees voted 501 to approve staff recommendation. This concludes my report.
Thank you. We will now move on to the consent calendar. Please note, per board policy 9323 and in accordance with the law, the public has a right to comment on any consent item. At the request of any member of the board, any item on the consent agenda shall be removed and given individual consideration as a special agenda item. Each speaker allotted 5 minutes on multiple items or 3 minutes per item. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards on the consent calendar this evening?
Yes, we have one speaker.
Okay, trustees will have that speaker first, and then we'll ask for board members to pull anything.
Good evening. I'm assuming it's me because I was unmuted. So good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent. I'm speaking on item 8C1. Unfortunately, I've yet to have a chance to read the modifications that were presented to you on the dais, but I'm going to continue with my statement as prepared. I appreciate your work on updating this policy to reflect the changes that are occurring in our board meetings, as well as that virtual participation for both community members and trustees will continue well into the future. I appreciate Trustee Davis's request to have in-person participants to speak first, but want to ensure that virtual speakers are included within the first 20 speakers on days that there are more than 20 speakers registered to speak for oral communications. Please consider making that amendment to the board policy, and thank you again for your work on this policy.
Thank you. Trustees, are there any consent items that you would like to pull?
I'll go ahead and pull 93. Wait, whatever, second reading, board policy 9323 for discussion.
8C1, okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Yep, C1.
Trustee Bolocus, do you have any items you'd like to pull? Okay, Trustee Davis, do you have any items on consent you'd like to pull? Okay, Trustee Jones?
You pulled 8C1, Trustee Davis? Okay. Oh, 8C1, the meeting conduct. Meeting conduct?
Yes,
That's the one I want to.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's the
great.
same one. Okay. Okay, so, and I have none. So 8C1, we will pull for special consideration. Can I have a motion to approve the balance?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Trustee Davis, second by Trustee Bullocks to approve the balance of the consent items other than 8C1. Mrs. Hayes, could we have a roll call?
Student Advisor Padilla.
Aye.
Trustee Bolocus.
Aye.
Trustee Castellanos is absent. Trustee Davis. Trustee Hanachek.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee McNicholas.
Aye. Trustees, since we have a fairly short agenda, are you willing to discuss item 8C1, Board Policy 9323 now, as opposed to waiting till the end?
Let's discuss it now.
Okay. All right. Trustee Hanachek, since you were the first one to pull it, do you have any comments or questions? Do you have?
I think I'm just going where I was last time, especially it was kind of rich last time. We had board members, you know, zooming in, and you gave deference to the board members going back and forth. So I kind of feel like we should just keep it simple and go back and forth and give deference to community members, whether in person or online, as we do, fulfilling the time requirements, and then putting folks at the end if there's overflow. I think we've overcomplicated it. We do it for the board members. We should do the same for the public. We can go back and forth and we're done. No extreme math.
Okay, do you want to stay with, are you recommending?
I would just stay going back and forth. And the one thing that we changed, I would go back and forth between in person, of course, with deference to children first, and then go to someone else if we have any speakers online, just as you do very efficiently for board members. And I think we could do the same for the general public. And then when the time comes, if we can no longer conduct meetings in this way and everybody has to be in person, then of course, then we would redirect accordingly. But I think it's the only way that is equitable with the way people can pack a boardroom and things like that, just to go back and forth. Everybody's equal, except for, again, the kids get a little bit extra deference if they're in person or online. So I appreciate that.
Okay, so what I'm going to ask other people too, but what you're saying is the amendment we made last time to hear first from in-person speakers and then online, you want to basically rescind that part and go back to alternating?
Yes, please. And I have, and you can come back to me. I have another reason too, but what I just stated right now, let's see where the conversation goes.
Okay, Trustee Bolkus, did you have a comment? We'll come back to you, Amy, if you have another one.
Okay, thank you.
No, I'm a little confused by her comments, so I'm going to wait for others to comment.
Okay, anybody else have any other comments? Gila, you and, okay. Gila?
And actually, the issue that I had, once I read more things carefully, that clears it up for me. But on the issue that Trustee Hanachek brings up, what she's proposing, Trustee Bolocus, is on page, well, let's see, I guess it's the fourth page of the new item under F. No, under F, yes.
Yep.
109F. Yes. She's proposing that it be Board of Trustees will alternate between remote and in-person speakers.
I think we had a pretty lengthy discussion about that, and I personally would like to keep it as it's stated here. The Board of Trustees will hear from in-person speakers and then online. I'd like to add the word speakers. The order of speakers will be announced at the beginning of each board meeting.
Well, what I wanted to say, I didn't quite finish. I'm not accusing you of interrupting me, but I just wasn't make it clear that I wasn't finished. That I feel like sort of, no matter how we do it, is potentially unfair to someone. If you have, let's say there's 50 people want to speak, 40 of them are in person and 10 are online. So we've got 20 minutes. So that means you could either do 10 and 10, or you can do a percentage. And percentage becomes very unwieldy, but the point is that you could end up either hearing all of your online or all of your in person and none of the other group. That's the thing that kind of concerns me. I don't really like any of the alternatives here, but I do think that if we say that this group is first and this group is second, you could, if you had 10 online and you were listening to the in-person first, and there was more than 10, you wouldn't, well, more than 20, you wouldn't hear any online speakers. And vice versa. Yes. Well, until later in the evening. Yes. And really, to a certain extent, of the oral communications are things that people could generally be dealing with in a different way because they're not agenda items. They can be by email or whatever. But I'm not crazy about it either way, because I think that someone's going to get an unfair advantage no matter what, but it could quite clearly be unfair if it is not alternating. Because generally we get more people in person. So if it's a lot of people in person that want to comment, more than 20, you're not going to hear from any online. So that's the issue, and that's what concerns me, but it's not good no matter what we do. Okay, now I am done.
Trustee David?
I think in order to keep the meeting flowing, in which Colleen does a great job of having everyone come line up, it keeps it going. If we go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, or we, in the year and a half, which I feel like that I've been on the board, we've had a lot of speakers come to speak, and we always hear from speakers. We've had to cut time down, we've had to adjust things, but we are here to listen to our families and our students in CUSD. And I think we will continue to do that. I'm not a fan of the moving it to the end of the meeting. I'm not a fan of that. I think that there's a reason why speakers come to speak to us in person. They are not wanting to send an email. Sometimes I've heard that sometimes people don't always respond. So, and there's been times that we've all hadn't responded when you're getting 300 emails on a particular topic, right? You're hearing, you're understanding, you're knowing. And then there's other speakers that have a reason to come and speak publicly. They're choosing not to send an email, not to call their principal, but rather to come and speak publicly on a non-agenda item, obviously, because it's oral communication. So I think that I think it's important that in order to keep it smooth, I think we decide whether it's in person first or it's online first. And I personally prefer to hear online or in person first, followed by online. If you're online, you can be wandering around your home, you can be feeding your children, you can be helping with homework, and you can pop in when it's your turn to speak. When you're in person, you're here solely, fully for this meeting. And so those are some of the reasons why I think we should choose one or the other. And obviously, I think it should stay as it's stated in F.
I'll just finish up. I think we've got two items here, two things going on here is efficiencies, and that's important. So moving the meeting along, and that's why you want to take the overflow and put it at the end. And so we can move on to the board business. So that's, tagging on to your efficiencies thing. And then I just feel like we should treat the public as we treat each other and the board. And frankly, we have found that human nature, if they really, people do come to the board meeting, especially if it's a certain item. Also, we need to be cognizant too, that sometimes with social media, we are able to see that there are campaigns for folks to come to the board meeting, let's say in oral communications. And others also might have something about oral communications, but not part of that group. And so I have received emails from folks who are not comfortable coming in person because they may not want to walk through perhaps a gauntlet of people or whatever it might be. Where we're enjoying a nice civil time right now, which is really lovely. So that's why I feel like we're overcomplicating it. We go back and forth, and then the overflow can be at the end of the meeting. So I'm holding with that. Thank you.
Okay, the comment from Michelle Plossel Campbell in writing, I think we all got the email from her, was to, if there are 20 or more, to do 10 in person and then 10 online, which is more what Trustee Jones was talking about, equal opportunity. My problem with that is we don't always know whether it's 20, there's going to be 10 and 10. If you have 50 people, it could be 49 and 1, or it could be 20 and 30, or, and I did talk briefly to Trustee Castellanos, and her input was to hear in-person speakers and then online, leave it the way it has been revised. But as we've been doing for years, we can waive this policy depending on the situation. So if it turns out we have 20 people here and 20 people online, we could, and still meet the requirements of this policy, say, for this meeting, we're going to take the first 10 here and then the next 10 online. Or we could, and not trying to assign more work to Mrs. Hayes and Mrs. Schmidt, do alternating. I think that is I agree with Trustee Davis that will probably take us way beyond our 20 minutes and will kind of be a nightmare for you guys. But we could, depending on the situation. Hopefully we don't have too many where we have hundreds of people wanting to address us. And I think the intent of Trustee Castellanos and the revisions to this was to be able to tighten up our meeting so people know what to expect when they get here, that they don't have to wait for 3 hours to speak. They know that our first oral communications is going to be 20 minutes. And if they don't get in the 20 minutes, they know they're going to have to be at the end. So I think this accomplishes what Trustee Castellanos had proposed. And I think the way it is will work, hopefully, for the preponderance of our meetings, but still allow us to waive our policy if we need to.
As President McNicholas, so let's do this since we are fluid people. Let's start with so we'll keep the revision that we did, and then we'll try it. And then if we're having issues and we're having feedback from the public, then we can redirect this. So I'm good to go.
Okay,
McNicholas, my light has been on
I'm sorry.
and.
I was looking at you, not,
No, yeah.
I'm sorry, I was looking at you, not here. So Trustee Bullock, I'm so sorry.
So I would just like to weigh in that
Yes.
for continuity and for expediting, I would like the all in person. We may also, as you said, there's going to be variables. We could have 15 student speakers and then we'll never get to the Zoom or the call in. But just like we've recognized the silver linings in having COVID and having to do this distance, we have a lot more principals, teachers that I have learned are tuning in, and I appreciate that. But the person that gets in and gets dressed and drives down to the district, I think they should be first and they should be heard. And so I would prefer to stay in person as it was written, as it was intended, as you said, that Trustee Castellanos put forward.
And that is what the revision we have in front of. Would you like to move approval then?
I would like to move approval of the,
Revisions as we have.
yes, thank you.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Trustee Bullock, second by Trustee Jones to accept the revisions to policy 9323.
And that's the revision you received this evening.
Mrs. Hayes, will you please call the roll?
Student Advisor Padilla? Aye. Trustee Bullicus?
Aye.
Trustee Castellanos? Is absent, I'm sorry. Trustee Davis?
Aye.
Trustee Hanichek?
Aye.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee McNicholas?
Aye. Motion passes 501 with a preferential vote of aye from Student Advisor Padilla. We go on to item 9, discussion action items. Item 9A1, second board reading, Board Policy 5141.52, suicide prevention. Now, this is also one we have a revision.
That's
from
correct.
Dr. Merwin.
Yes, thank you, President McNicholas. Trustees, Superintendent Vital Brulte, we present item 1, second reading, Board Policy 5141.52, suicide prevention. This is a second reading. Staff recommends approval as amended. So as you'll notice, as it states in the board report and also in the copies that you received, we received additional feedback from the federal program monitoring after the April 20th board meeting. So that additional language has been added, and then we made the edits that the trustees requested from the dais. So staff recommends approval.
Do we have any blue cards on this item? Okay, trustees, any comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion then.
So moved. Amy.
Okay,
Second,
moved by trustee Hanachek, second by trustee Bolus. Mrs. Hayes, we call roll.
Student Advisor Padia. Aye. Trustee Bilikus.
aye.
Trustee Castellanos is absent. Trustee Davis.
Hi.
Trustee Hanachek.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee McNicholas.
Aye. Motion passes 501 with a preferential vote of aye for from student advisor Padia. Item A2, 9A2, first reading, board policy 6164.6, identification and education under section 504. This is Dr. Merwin.
Yes, thank you again, President McNicholas, trustees, Superintendent Vital Brulte. We present item 2, first reading, board policy 6164.6, identification and education under section 504. This is a first reading because this is a new policy, as it mentions in the board report, that the federal program monitoring asked us to include in our policies. We appreciate any feedback regarding this policy. And Dr. Carrie Johnson is here as well to help answer any questions. Thank you.
Mrs. Hayes, do we have any blue cards on this item?
We do not.
Okay, trustees, do you have any comments or questions? This is a first reading, but we do not have 100% of our trustees here, so we will have to go to a second reading, I believe.
That
Any
is,
comments?
Can we move to bring it back in consent?
yes,
Okay, so we move approval and then bring it back in consent.
it's on the.
I don't think we generally vote on these when they're coming back to consent. We did at the last meeting, but normally we do not.
Okay, I'm gonna read this. It says, trustees, since we do not have a unanimous vote to waive the second reading, may I have a motion to approve board policy 6164.6 and bring this item back on consent as a second reading?
So moved.
Second,
A move by trustee Hanachek, second by trustee Jones. So we are moving approval and then bring back the second reading on consent. Okay.
Thank you, trustees.
Okay, we need to vote.
Student Advisor Padia. Aye. Trustee Bilikus.
Aye.
Trustee Castellanos is absent. Trustee Davis.
Hi.
Trustee Hanachek.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Hi.
Trustee McNicholas.
Aye. Motion passes 501 with a preferential vote of aye from student advisor Padia. Item A9A3, first reading board policy 1312.3, uniform complaint procedures. This is Bob Presby, Associate Superintendent of Human Resource Services.
Thank you, President McNicholas, trustees, Superintendent Vital Brulte. We are bringing a first reading of board policy 1312.3, uniform complaint procedures. This is also part of the federal program and monitoring audit to ensure that our policy is in compliance with their requests. Staff's available to answer any questions, appreciates any feedback or suggestions, and staff does recommend approval.
Mrs. Hayes, do we have any blue card comments on this?
Do not.
Trustee Bilikus, do you have a comment?
Yes. I want to say that previously when we had discussed this, and I want to say it was Superintendent Vital Brulte that said that maybe we would try to call it something different than complaint. And I had agreed with that. So I just wondered if to match everyone else's policies, if we have to stick to that, or I think grievance actually sounds better to me than complaint, but maybe someone else has a suggestion.
In the FPM, do you have to call it complaint? I know internally we call it, I'm right now blanking on our process and what it's called.
We call it assistance.
Assistance, yeah.
Really?
Do you
So
have,
I'm sorry, are you saying online, if a parent went and we direct them to, you know, they want to escalate their grievance, they would find, it says on the website, assistance? Or,
I don't think so.
I think it's CUSD Assist is the email address that we use to acknowledge and then start supporting a family. I can double check for trustees to see exactly how that's worded.
okay, so you are saying that because some things we're trying to match up to, you know, OCDE or CSBA, this is something you're saying that we need to keep the word complaint?
Yes, this is often referred to as a UCP, a Uniform Complaint Procedure, where the word grievance is usually reserved for a contract violation. This would be a complaint that isn't necessarily a violation. It's just a parent or a community member focusing on one of the areas in 1312.3 that they feel we're out of compliance. They file a complaint, which I know the word can seem harsh, but that is the process. We then investigate, and then we'd be able to give them the findings, which may be supporting their position or supporting a different position. But UCP or Uniform Complaint Procedure is the common title.
Okay, thank you. Well, I had to at least ask.
But there's UCP is over certain very specific things like here's accommodations for pregnant parenting pupils. So, and then it's not everything. Like if I think that my principal's haircut is no good or something, that doesn't come under UCP. So on the website, we have complaints and then we also have UCP, right? Could we maybe have like complaints and concerns, maybe change that be complaints and concerns, not the UCP, because that is like a legal term of art.
do all the complaints get entered in the same system? Because the system, CUSD Assist, is if a parent, let's say, emails us and says, you know, we've tried X, Y, and Z, unless it's about an employee, then that goes directly to their supervisor, but we've tried X, Y, Z, it's unresolved, then we enter it into CUSD Assist, which is, I guess, complaints, but we're trying to keep solving things at the lowest level. If it's a particular issue, we also try to send that email first back to usually it's a site, not always, but the vast majority are a site problem. So I think maybe what we're trying to do is what is the informal process and what is that called? And this is really that like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 legal process when people can't get things resolved at the informal level. So is that bifurcated in the system or no?
And just to add into that, for whoever's going to explain, is we basically, if it's a site level, it's the principal, we send it back to, and if the principal cannot satisfy, then it is taken to the more formal, what is the word we use? Elevated or the next level.
Yeah, it's a leveled system, level 1, level 2, level 3, etc.
So that, the level 1, 2, 3 is not mentioned in here, is it?
No, that's generally not part of a board policy. That usually appears in the administrative regulations. That would identify almost all, and even in the board policy does state, we start at the informal level, which is sometimes called level 1 or just the informal level. If it's not resolved, then as Dr. Merwin indicated, it would go to the supervisor and then a level 2 and ultimately up to the board. The process, from what I understand, is it's put into the system. The complaint is reviewed to see, is it a UCP complaint? There's a Williams complaint procedure. There's a complaint against an employee, community against employee, employee against employee. Then we would follow our process and it would go to the correct supervisor to start at the informal level, try to get it resolved at that point. But if we still are not able to get it resolved, there is the escalation process for all of the complaint procedures.
Okay, so this policy basically specifies what is a UCP complaint, what the different categories are, and the reference ed codes. And then there's also a section at end that specifically says these are not UCP complaints.
Correct.
Okay, so this is really,
But Martha, that section refers to sending it to another agency, like law enforcement or Department of Agriculture. So there's another category, which is neither of those. It's not going to law enforcement, it's not going to Child Protective Services, but it's not a UCP complaint, right? And maybe it's like, you know, my desk is broken, I don't know. So it's a complaint, but it's not UCP and it's not an outside agency.
I wonder if part of how we resolve this is just really setting up on our website the informal process and the words we use in the informal process, separate from the legal policy that we have to have when informal process doesn't work. And this is what we have to look at. I wonder if that's how we just bifurcate this, because I do think we have a good system, CUSD Assist, where we log, get it to the right person, follow up to make sure everybody gets an answer, or they're, you know, they go to the next level. Because we usually are pretty good at getting these things resolved before they get to level 3 or 4. I mean, I think that's a good thing that we're able to resolve them at the lowest level. So maybe that's the way to bifurcate this, is a website that's describes the informal process and that it can attach to the legal process if it's these following issues.
I do have to say, having looked at the
Trustee Bullockis?
So my question is, this is a board policy, but it is set for anybody outside CUSD, parents, family members, community to put forth a complaint. And so that it's formal and it's submitted online. So to your point, Superintendent Vital-Brutti, is having that kind of explain. I mean, to be honest, I would have to go back to the website to go through the process and look to see if I was going to enter that, would I clearly know the delineations of the types of things that I can complain about?
And I think Trustee Jones?
Yes, I actually was looking at the complaint part of the website last week, and I found it impossible to understand. Let me just put it that way.
This is supposed to be for a parent or a guardian to be able to let us know that they are not satisfactorily, that their complaint has not been satisfied to them and they want to take it to the next level, right? So we need to go back and look at our website to make it more clear.
Well, it sounds like there's several different things going on here, whether it's this policy versus our website and how user-friendly that is. Trustee Davis, did you have a comment?
That was exactly to my point. I think this is one thing, the UCP is one thing, and it's very delineated on exactly what it covers and exactly what it, and I'm guessing all the red and all the changes and all the swipe outs is what, so that we're in compliance and everything's exactly per se what needs to be in there.
Correct.
Okay, so I think the second is how we do, to Trustee Jones's point, we do need to clean that up. I've heard from several parents. I also agree, and I feel like it is difficult. I think it's muddy, and I think we need to have it more clear and easily accessible when someone does have a complaint. And I love, and that helps me better understand that if someone has a complaint, then it goes to that CUSD Assist. I'm sure it's at Capo USD. Then it goes to who will help address the concern. And I actually am not against the word complaint on our website, because if someone is having a complaint, it's okay to call it a complaint. I mean, we could say it nicer, or grievance, or we can say another, assistance, but really it's a complaint and it's something that needs to be addressed for a family. So I don't know. I mean, and I'm fine with grievance. It doesn't matter to me, but I do think it needs to be addressed and adjusted so that it's more user-friendly.
I think it sounds like you have to have these legal words for us to get through FPM. But I do think additionally, it sounds like we have some follow-up to do just to be clear about how people, if they, how they go about this, if they need help. I know, Dr. Johnson, you've been trying to jump in, I think.
Yeah, I just was going to mention that UCP is very specific guidance from federal and state about very specific programs. So you can think of it as kind of as MTSS pyramid, right? Our CUSD assist, any complaint can be made there, but Heidi frequently says, oh, this complaint is very specific to Title IX, so let's give it to the Title IX coordinator. This looks like it might be a UCP. So our complaint, we definitely could look and revamp the look, the community facing look on the website. I completely agree. It should be easy and accessible, but UCP is very specific language guided by federal and state law. So.
Okay. Trustee Hanachek, do you have any comments?
No, I mean, I don't find this complicated. And on page, what's 129 of the book, and non-UCP complaints, I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward as it is. So I'm good to go.
Okay, so the policy itself looks like we're okay with, but we're giving direction to staff to look at how user-friendly it can be online. Can I have a motion to approve them?
A motion to approve 1312.3 uniform complaint procedures.
Second.
Moved by trustee Bolka, second by trustee Jones. And this is another situation where we don't have a unanimous vote to waive the second reading, but we can bring it back on consent. Okay. Ms. Hayes, could you call the roll?
Student Advisor Padia?
Aye.
Trustee Bilikus?
Aye.
Trustee Castellanos is absent. Trustee Davis?
Aye.
Trustee Hanachek?
Aye.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee McNicholas?
Aye, motion passes 501 with a preferential vote of aye for student advisor Padia. And I believe that is the end of our agenda. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Jones, second by trustee Bolkus. Ms. Hayes, can you call the roll?
Student Advisor Padia?
Aye.
Trustee Bilikus?
Aye.
Trustee Castellanos is absent. Trustee Davis?
Aye.
Trustee Hanachek?
Aye. Sorry.
Trustee Jones?
Aye.
Trustee McNicholas?
Aye, motion passes 501 with a preferential vote of aye from student advisor Padia. We are adjourned at 6:39 p.m.